Where is everybody?
They're a coming. Hi, Sooner.
Oh, man. What have you been doing?
Hello, everybody.
It's already a better looking group than last week, I got to tell you. Those people last week were big and ugly. I got screenshots so I can share with you to prove it, too.
Hey, good guys.
Hello.
Hey, Marcel. How you doing,
everyone? Hello.
Oh my gosh.
Hello.
Shite, I got to start figuring out who's here. I keep trying to say hi, and then 4 more people pop in. And we got people hiding on the phone again, too.
Hey. Don't worry, Bob.
What's happening?
It's all good until Dearson shows up.
Yeah, where's the plane?
What's that?
Your mic's
Hey,
on, Patrick.
Where's the plane?
Giovanni.
Hey, how you doing? The plane moved out to the garage. The buggies are on the table today.
So we don't have to wait for everyone. I mean, I think there's probably going to be about 60 people today. First of all, oh, look, it's Steve Warren. Steve was supposed to show up last week because we were going to sing happy birthday to him, and he freaking ditched us.
I got drunk and lunched out.
I got drunk.
Perfect excuse. I got drunk. Yeah. And Sooner, I know Sooner's only here because I owe her a call since yesterday, and I keep saying, I promise I'll call you in an hour, and I'm freaking so busy.
It's all good.
Aren't we supposed to be watching Netflix and drinking and doing nothing right now? Like, I've never been busier making less money.
Yes.
That is for sure.
I don't know about you guys, but I took the whole day off today. I am not going to do any production-related work today at all.
Well, I don't think you do anyways because you were sailing last week. And, you know, that was classic, by the way, Patrick. That was amazing.
What's changed for you then?
Oh, God. Great. Oh, my God. Ross.
Hey. Hey, buddy.
Aloha.
So one of the things I wanted to mention is actually Ben, who's on the call, can probably share a little more information about it than I can. But Ben mentioned something to me earlier today that the CARES Act is opening to freelancers on April 10th. And so I know I've had conversations with even a few of the people on this call, but certainly a lot of people who aren't on this call or aren't on this chat group or happy hour or whatever you want to call it. But if you are an incorporated LLC, and I'm not trying to be your accountant or advisor or anything, but if you're an LLC, you can apply for money as an employer and get money out of this payroll protection program or whatever the PPP stands for. And but even if you're an individual and a freelancer, that opens up on April 10th. And Ben actually has someone who I think is willing to talk to us about this and to create like a massive webinar / conference call for our industry. So would people be interested in that? Are there any freelancers on here, and would you be interested in that?
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff.
Yep.
So, I mean, because the thing is, someone would have to pay for it. And Ben Saltzman from Act Lighting has been very gracious in offering to potentially pay for it, but only if enough people are going to show up and actually gain benefit from it. If it's going to be 7 people, this guy wants too much money for us to do it. But if it's going to be, you know, 300 people or 400 people, it's absolutely worth helping that many people, and we'll do whatever we can to make that happen. So
You're definitely going to have an overflow of people.
Will we be able to go post it on social media, like some of these forums that have been set up?
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah, no,
plus, you know, we could send a free pro bono marketing blast out to our list, which is, you know,
Right.
several thousand.
Yeah. So,
Sorry, my son just finished teleschool and is trying to figure out what he's doing for the rest of the afternoon. Yeah.
tell him he could join us because that's what we're doing too.
Yeah, exactly. What the hell was I going to say? Oh, yeah, like Marcel just said, like we can totally make this happen. The window opens next Friday, so maybe I'm thinking like next Wednesday. Come here for 1 second. Come here. Come here. You got to wave. Say hi. You got to. That's Jonah.
Hey
What was I
Ben,
gonna say?
Ben, John Wiseman.
Yeah.
We would be willing to jump in on that if there's a demand for it and help you out so you're not carrying the whole burden.
Yeah. Perfect. So we'll figure that part out. We just got to make sure, like I was saying to Marcel earlier, you know, it's not worth it for 20 people, but if we get a couple hundred, it's worth it.
Can I
That's amazing.
throw out there? I'm sorry, this is Laura Hepker.
Hey,
I
Laura.
just want to throw out there that there are free resources who Look Affairs and Government Relations team has already summarized the CARES Act for us that includes information on independent contractors and all that sort of stuff. And I would be willing to bet they would be willing to come talk to our team for our community for free as well. Just somewhere else to possibly.
All right. So Marcel, now we have 2 people on the panel and we'll figure it out from there.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Yeah, and I mean, if anyone wants to connect with anyone else through this, and if I can help create that connection, I'm happy to. You know, again, the goal here is to help people. It's not for anybody to make money, and certainly Ben stepping up and raising his hand and saying, hey, you know, we might even consider paying for this thing, which is amazing because, you know, let's face it, we're all a little short on revenue right now. So, so yeah, that's very cool.
Oh, wait. Hold on, Marcel. There's no money in this? What the fuck are we doing here?
Well, there once was. John, speaking of no money in this.
And there will be again.
Yeah, John, one of the interesting things about John is this is one of the very rare times you're not seeing a hotel room in the background of Wiseman. I'm used to talking to him when he's in a hotel lately. For those few of you who don't know who John Wiseman is, he's, you know, whatever he's called, Senior VP, Executive VP of PRG's touring. Everybody should know him at this point. But so John has, I guess, no clients right now, I would guess. Not so much.
Well, I see a few clients on here, but I see we're all not working. I've spent the last probably 3 days. There's one. Hello, Josh. On conference calls, one with Josh yesterday for about an hour. You know, everybody I'm talking to right now, I explain when I'm talking to my fellow executives at PRG, I just explain, look, this is about what CAA, Live Nation, William Morris, AEG, and the other promoters around the world, they all want to get back to work more than us. So we're kind of the tail on the dog following those guys. So the clients that I've been talking to over the last, probably week off and on seem to have geared up quite a bit. It's a lot of rescheduling. It's a lot of retalking. It's a lot of, what do you think? What do you think we're going to do, et cetera, et cetera. I was talking to CAA, one of the heads of CAA yesterday, and he said, look, we've got shows planned June 15th. We think they're not going to go. So we've got other shows planned in July, August, and September, and we're afraid to put tickets on sale because nobody has any fucking money. So, look, I wake up in the morning and the glass is always half full for me because I just can't live any other way. Otherwise I just, eat a fucking Glock. So, you got to get up in the morning and you got to just go, look, today's going to be a better day. I'm one day closer to getting back to work. This sucks, but let's get on and let's compare notes with people. Everybody I'm talking to is dying to go. So it's going to be a mad, it's going to be a mad dash out of the gates with a bunch of thoroughbreds, and we're going to be holding on to their tail with our hand in their pocket, trying to get something as we go. So, John,
would you, I mean, and I don't know if anybody wants to make any, crazy announcements on this kind of a call, but, we originally, my day 91 concept was based on people being back to work in June. And I'm hearing a lot of rumors that that's starting to slide a little bit further, partially due to liability issues, partially due to just, we don't know where this thing's at right now. It's still sort of a three-headed monster.
Yeah, I've asked some insurance agents, and especially ours that does entertainment, about underwriting any of the live events. And he said right now, that's going to be the biggest problem, is getting the insurance to underwrite these live events or these public events.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the issue, isn't it? Because even if you can get somebody to buy tickets still, the problem is, I think venues, artists, promoters are all going to be a little bit nervous getting sued if someone comes to an event and gets sick. Right?
Yep.
This is a challenge.
I not to over talk, but I was listening to talk radio the other day, and there was a guy on there, and it was unrelated to our business, but he just kind of took a left-hand turn in the middle of the conversation. And he said, look, what nobody's talking about right now, this made me it kind of set me back a little bit. He said, what no one's talking about right now is when it does switch on, and when it is going, and when it's up and running, what's that really mean? So if you own a bar, or if you own a restaurant, they use the example of the restaurant. He said, if you've got 100 tops in your restaurant, but you can only sell 70 because you have to distance the tables. And he's talking about when this thing starts, not 2 years from now. He said, you got 70 tables you can sell instead of 100. What does that do to your business? What does that do to your employee base? And how do you price things? And then he said, if you're an NBA owner and you own an arena and you've got 18,000 seats in it, and nobody wants every other seat. I thought, you know what? Great. I mean, does GA exist anymore this next 12 months? I don't think so. So there's just a lot of, I'm raring to go, but I don't know where the hell I'm going. I want to get there, but I don't know where I'm going. And what does that mean? I think, honestly, 18 months from now, we're not even, this is going to be a fart in the wind, because the news cycle will take it over with the next drama in politics or whatever. But when it does start, what does that mean? And I'll be quiet.
Well, I think you're going to see tours having more like sanitizing crews that are actually out with the tour, making sure that there is a standard operating procedure for sanitizing backstage areas and artist compounds. And I think you're going to see temperatures taken at some of the venues. And I think overall, just from the discussions that we've all been on, the way that people enter and exit the arena is going to change, or the venue is going to change drastically.
Yeah. Very true.
And how long will that last? When will, the memory is short. As human beings, we put these things in the past and we minimize them. Right now, it's everything. It's the whole fucking world. But, we minimize them. So you didn't go to Germany 50 years ago, but now, you go there and do a gig. So who knows how this goes and how long it takes to get there.
Yeah. Very true.
Well, one thing that's for certain is that, the socialization of the species is on pause right now, and people want to socialize badly. So the issue really is going to be as much how to keep everyone feeling like they can do that, but the demand is going to be there. Whether the money is there is a different problem.
Yeah, I think the money is going to be a huge problem. I think that, between Ticketmaster, the promoters, the artists, and the agents, they're all going to have to take a reduction just to get people in the doors, so that it makes it more affordable for people, because everybody's going to have to replace the cash in the coffer when this thing gets back up and running. I mean, expendable income is gone right now. And so what is that going to look like? I mean, and including the production, the designers are going to have to design more efficiently and more frugal.
True. You know what's really impressing me is how many people on this call have friggin' log cabins. Like, I feel like I got to go out and buy a log cabin.
Wiseman and Sooner inspired me.
It's the only way to go.
I mean, Jesus, what's with all the log cabins? I feel like I need
get that fuck out of Nashville is what that's all about.
No kidding. No kidding. Well, you certainly could be in Nashville with that, right?
I mean, it's not making any vacation rental income, so we might as well use it. You know, all of our reservations canceled. So we're like, well, I guess we'll just go use it. No problem.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of people post their all their vacation rentals in Cape Cod have been canceled for the whole summer. Like the whole season's dead.
Yeah. I've been watching Susan Rose posting hers. Susan Rose every day. It's like, oh, I had another rental canceled for July now or whatever. She's panicking.
Well, didn't Cape Cod actually ban any of the Airbnb or rentals because their hospitals aren't facilitated to run that many people? So they're trying to keep the smaller towns small.
Most of the resort areas.
Your mic cut out there, David.
Oh, sorry. Still working on it.
It's working.
Okay. But most of the resort areas don't want anyone. You put that on the island.
It's not working. Working, it's not working.
Well, let's face this. It's not about Cape Cod. This is the whole world's a fucking shit show. It's unbelievable. I mean, you couldn't, if you made this up, no one would ever believe you. I don't believe it. We're all in the middle of it, and I don't believe it.
Yeah.
This is the funniest onion story ever.
I have a question for the production company owners. Like, obviously, I see Ray and John and, Bob Harmon's on there and Giovanni. So you guys, when we get back, to the swing of this, do you feel that we're going to be able to hold your production value, or are we going to be hammered by the producers and we're going to have to just do a cash grab, which is going to reset the cost value of our industry lower than we left it at?
I'll comment when I'm called on.
John, can you comment, please?
Sorry. I think it's going to be a lot more competitive.
I don't think so. I think this is a chance to finally get some fucking margin back. I look at it the opposite.
I'd like to think that's what we can do.
I think that's up to us. We're the ones that are going to drop our pants, and we shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at it like this, this is the thought that I've been having. Never in my life have I ever had a client say, we're going to go out in 6 months. Let me give you a deposit to hold the gear. And I've had 10 clients tell me that this week.
Jesus.
10.
Take the deposit.
Oh, fuck. What do you think? So that was, look, like you said, we can drop our pants, and that's what we do. We all get together, and we're all business owners, and we all have bills to pay, and we get nervous, and we make bad decisions sometimes. That's a whole different discussion. But I've never, in my 40 years of doing this, and I like to hear what Robert Roth has to say, had a situation where I've had clients say, look, what do I got to do to hold the gear and the people? And it's not one. It's if I got 20 guys I'm talking to right now, I got 10 that want to write me checks right now, which is really strange. Robert, I'd like to hear what you say. Fucking you muted Robert Roth, the world. Me and Robert muted. Wow, there's something.
I do not believe that we're going to see a great deal of pressure to reduce prices. I mean, the people who are going to pressure you to reduce prices probably aren't worth doing business with anyway. I mean, I'm getting a lot of people going, listen, we're ready to go. As fast as somebody says we can go, we're on. And I mean, this is going to reset in cycles. The last cycle, in my opinion, that's going to reset is all the corporate work, because it's got the longest lead time to make the thing happen, right? But this idea that, I mean, obviously there are players that are in dire financial straits. I mean, we're all not doing well, but there are people who have had, you know, a lot more pressure on their businesses, and I can't speak for them. I can just speak that the wise business decision is going to be to do business as usual with the quality customers. And, you know, I mean, it's easy to say no if the deal doesn't make any sense. Wiseman?
There's also an interesting vibe right now where, like, you know, I can tell you my income's down by, I don't even know what percent, and I hate to admit it, but a lot. And, you know,
put me down for 100%.
But when I order food from a restaurant, even if I've got, like, if with that restaurant I've been eating there for 5 years and I've got a built-in discount, I don't mention my discount. If, God forbid, I've got a 30% off coupon or some special deal, I don't mention it. I'm paying them full price.
You know, I have to tell you, it's nice to see.
That's crazy.
But that's nice. That's nice to see because, you know, I was down in Rancho Mirage when they started shutting everything down, and the hotel that I was in, 250 room resort. My wife and I were 2 of 6 people there the next day when they shut it all down. First the restaurant closed, then room service closed, then everything closed, and then we just decided to stay anyway because what a great place to quarantine, right? But we went out of our way to overtip people because they, you know, this is when you can be a human being. You know, you there's a pause. You know, people are in trouble. Even we're in trouble, but this is when you can be kind. And you know, there's some good stuff comes out of bad places. Marcel not using a coupon is just, you know, epic.
Well, I think the other side of it too is kind of what Dave Ratt said is everybody's been coming to the well for, you know, every charity, every little event. And we've always stepped up. I mean, I know my company's stepped up. I know all of you have too. And now it's time for us to drink from the well. And I think that needs to be said and reaffirmed by everybody as we go forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the one thing that I hope we're not forgetting are like the employees of these companies, because I've been talking to a lot of friends in New York City, and their main thing is they live paycheck to paycheck, and they're the guys that coil a cable in your shops and, you know, come out on tours and support us when we're using you as a vendor. And their main thing is they can't even afford to live in New York City right now. They're giving up their apartments and going home. And I have a big fear that, especially in New York City in the theater community, we're going to lose a lot of really talented people that are just like, if this is going to happen for 18 months, I got to find a normal job. And those really talented techs that we've had on these tours, we're gonna lose them. So that's a huge fear of mine. I know you guys have the gear, and when we come on you to bid on a show, you're going to give us the best stuff. But my fear is getting that labor force back after this whole.
Yeah, good point.
Hey, Marcel, it's Ray over at RZI. How you doing?
Hey, Ray.
Hey, one of the things that we have suddenly come across today, and maybe John Wiseman is interested in it, is we are suddenly getting a ton of calls for outdoor festivals at churches, outdoor screens, video screens, and stuff like that, because they're trying to leave the people outside and let them practice social distancing. So might be something to be of interest to some of the people that are on your telecast here, if that's the right word for it. But
yeah, I mean, here in Florida, churches are being, I think, fined or charged or whatever it is for still trying.
I got a felony.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's a popular thing here in this state, anyways. But
yeah, I saw a thing on Instagram where it was, you know, one of those little meme things, whatever, memes, whatever the hell you call them, where it was like a picture of a church with an empty parking lot and a picture of the Walmart with a packed parking lot, and it said, "Okay to pack this place, but you can't go here." I mean, the rules are just being developed second to second, minute to minute. They just don't know, you know. They just don't know.
I have a question. Do you guys think that it's going to be a federal mandate or guidelines that are going to be for public gatherings, or do you think it's going to go state by state in the future? And what's your thoughts on that?
State by state.
What have they done so far, federal?
Yeah, even city by city.
The guy with the most power over your, the person with the most power over your daily life is not the president or the feds. It's people get all excited about the federal elections, and there's a lot of drama. But I mean, I always make sure to vote for my city councilman and my mayor, because those guys have the biggest effect on my day-to-day life. And I think that the federal government, they're depending on who's in power, of course, but the mandate is they want to make it more local. They want to make it more. It's a more intelligent way to make a decision. The guy in Washington D.C. doesn't know what the fuck's going on in Reno, Nevada. He doesn't know what's happening in my house in Tahoe. He can tell me all day long, and I'm not going to do it anyway. So there you go.
Yeah, but Reno's
John's
completely
right.
different
There's
than
so much
Iowa.
There's so much inconsistency. We're even grocery shopping. There's the same national chain. One store in one municipality says, we're limiting the number of people inside, and another one doesn't.
Yeah, but make no mistake, if the federal government comes in and says, hey, there will be no social, like they're doing right now, and that's, they do have that power to do that. If they say, look, concerts are not going to come back till 2022 because we're not going to put you together. The NBA, we're not going to have you sitting side by side. If they go and do that, that shit's going to roll downhill. But I honestly believe that and this is not to be political in any way at all, but I do agree with the premise that if you have spiders in your house, you don't burn your house down to get the spiders out. You don't destroy, the cure for cancer is not a bullet to your head. That's a cure that doesn't cure you. They have to get the business going again. They have to get the economy going again. And so there's going to be a point in time where it's just the statistics are going to drive what the politicians want to do and what the professionals say, and the stats are going to make the decision, and they're going to have to open it up. It's just, when is that going to happen? I'm sorry, I'm fucking talking too much.
All good.
I'd like to put out there that University of Hawaii has come out with our biotech folk have come out with at least one test that's 15 minutes. And another one I've read about recently is as close as 5. The 5-minute test involves taking blood. 15 minutes is pretty much you take your own sample and submit it. I wouldn't be surprised to see this actually as a part of your admission to an event, is to be able to prove you don't have this.
Yeah, almost like the contagion wristband. You got to have the wristband to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll show up and you'll get wanded, and then you'll get swabbed.
One of the things that we're talking about a lot from the federal level is that, our First Amendment right is the right to assemble, and we're told we can't do it. Now, we're being responsible because obviously we shouldn't be doing it right now. But at some point, when are we going to start? When is the system and the individuals are going to start fighting back, going, I'm tired of being told that you're taking my civil liberties away.
Well,
people in New York every day.
I know you're on Facebook, Aaron. I'm seeing it constantly on Facebook, where from both wings, by the way, are saying, damn it, I have rights. I think these are special times where a lot of those rights go out the window for most of us, and we just have to behave. It's like here in the state of Florida today, Ron DeSantis, the governor, issued a, whatever you call it, but you're basically
executive order.
You're supposed to stay at home now. It's a stay-at-home order in the state of Florida, which should have been issued weeks ago, because I've been doing it for weeks, because guess what? Common freaking sense prevails.
It's common sense, correct. But how long do you think the masses are going to accept this? They're not going to accept it for 6 months, 9 months.
Well, 30 days. I say it's going to be 30 days. Hey, everybody, my name's Jack, by the way. Marcel invited me today.
Yeah.
I live in Chicago. We've been on lockdown for about 10 days now, and the first 7 days everybody was pretty much following it. This weekend I saw more traffic going down the road than there was 2 months ago. I think realistically we have 30 days, maybe the end of April, whatever, but especially in cold weather climates, when the weather starts getting nice, people just aren't going to stay in anymore. They're just not going to. I mean, we can issue an order from the governor's office or the White House or whatever. They're just not going to stay in anymore. They're just not.
I agree. By the end of April, if it doesn't change, it's going to be, I live in Austin, and it's really weird to see Austin being so deserted. It's strange, the streets and everything. Everything's on lockdown here. So
Well,
I think I think there's also
John, hang on one sec. I live in a gated community in South Florida, which everybody in South Florida lives in a gated community. And it's a fairly large gated community. And it's generally fairly wealthy people. Like I'm the poorest guy in this whole community, I think. And the streets are filled with people out walking or riding their bikes. And I'm actually really enjoying it because usually if you happen to walk across someone, you know, out here on one of the golf cart paths or something, they'll turn away from you, or they might give you like a, you know, sort of one of those, like, I'm way richer than you and please don't look at me nods, you know? But now everyone's saying hello. Everyone's like, the golf courses are all closed here. So people are walking all the golf cart paths and kids fishing and all this stuff. And they're not being irresponsible. They're not having a party. They're not grouping together. It's just like a man and his wife out walking, or a guy and his kids out walking or whatever. And I'm actually really enjoying seeing that. I got to be honest with you.
It's crazy seeing Florida switch to the front porch mentality when it used to be the gated back porch mentality.
100%. Very well said. Exactly.
Marcel, there's a question in the chat window from the manufacturing side.
I actually was going to address you on that one, Eric, but Roel, who's from Europe, his mic isn't working right now. So he's asking from the manufacturer side, are we seeing companies investing in new gear? And one of the people I would definitely like to ask about that is certainly Eric, but I also want to hear from Steve Warren, because, you know, everyone knows Steve from Able Lights. You're in UK. What's it like there?
I think the big shock for me, to be honest, is seeing some of the orders coming back from China, which I really wasn't expecting. You know, we're watching the figures on that world map, and I mean, it's quite shocking how China has sort of taken control of it and pulled it right back and got almost no new cases, when all the rest of us are still really struggling with this. But that's the thing that gives me the most hope in all of it, is that China has got it under control. And from what I hear of friends in Hong Kong, and is that, you know, we've had episodes before with SARS, and so it's not such a shock to us, and they seem to be sort of taking it in their stride. And even though I think I'm the same as many others, where you think, wow, you just can't imagine life after this and what the ramifications are going to be. But the fact that China have sort of dealt with it swiftly, obviously their government had much greater powers to lock everyone down.
Yeah, but you're seeing some equipment orders.
We're seeing some equipment. I mean, we're seeing some level of orders with people doing home training, and that, you know, is quite encouraging. But obviously, it's a tiny drop in the ocean compared to, you know, to what we need to keep going. But as I say, I'm really lifted up by the optimism of the Chinese, that Chinese distributors taking stocking orders again, you know, where they had held off, you know, so they were low on stock, but I thought, okay, it's going to be months before we see that moving again. And that makes me think that, okay, this maybe other countries will start to follow suit.
Yeah. So, Eric, I'd love to hear from you on this at your beautiful log cabin.
You know, I think it really depends on where you are in the market, in the world. We, you know, let's say if China's 60 days ahead of us at this point, we're starting to see, yes, they're getting back to some normality there, but even there, they're not doing local gathered events yet. The rental companies there are still struggling. So, or at least whatever events they're doing with the equipment they have. So from the people we've talked to, it's not back there yet. Maybe it's another 30 days before they're back to some normality. I think the challenge that we're facing today, and I'm sure Ben's facing the same challenge, is, you know, our customers are calling us and saying, hey, we can't pay you. We can't pay you for the next, I don't know. And we're saying, okay, well, you know, what does that mean? Do we have a choice? Let's work with you, and we'll support you as much as we can. Keep in mind, though, we're going to support you through this. Remember us when you're ready to buy again, right? So I think the challenge as a manufacturer right now is we're banking a lot of the industry for whoever we've sold to, and we want to see that same support when we get out of this, right?
I would just like to say, I wouldn't want to give the wrong impression. You're absolutely right, Eric. We are acting as banks for so many of our customers and having to be reasonable, and we'd want to be reasonable. But you're right, quite often we don't have the resources to do that indefinitely.
Yeah.
Having said that, you know, when I say we see orders come back from China, not at the same level they were at before, and I wouldn't want to give the wrong impression of that. But just to see some positive moves when everything else has just fallen off a cliff. And you're right, we just, you know, we're going to have to bide our time. I also have a great faith in the will of people to want to get together again, you know, and when I hear that from the others, I suppose my partner and I were sort of very regular festival goers. We're quite often in large crowds of people, and you see that desire for people to get together. And I think, yeah, maybe I would put it over 30 days, but I think by 60 and 90 days, people are going to be desperate to go out. And maybe we'll also get used to it a little bit, you know, that we just can't stay cooped up forever. And so I suppose that also gives me faith in the future.
Yeah. It seems like outdoor events would make the most sense to start with.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that looks, and there's a lot of people on here that would know how to manage that, but it seems like, you know, I'd want to go to an outdoor event, or I want to go play golf again. I want to do outdoor things. So I think if we can get something going there, you know, something's got to tip the scale here to get moving forward again. And, you know, who's going to lead? I love what Live Nation's doing with their program now to support the crew out there. And I think it's going to take somebody like that to tip the scales and to get things moving again, like John said.
Yeah, I think the leader for a lot of industries, not just your industry, but hospitality, restaurants, all kinds of gatherings, I think the leader is going to be the NFL this fall.
Well, let's see.
Right. I mean, or leader either in going back to work or not going back to work.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if the Goodell bot is working, though. Goodell bot doesn't always work too well.
I want to see Tom Brady in a freaking Tampa Bay jersey.
Yeah, right.
So hey, I wanted to comment on what Jack said earlier about the 30 days and who's going to start this. I don't think it's going to be the NFL. What I think is going to happen here is, you know, we're all a bunch of wildcat guys. We're all, you know, we're all independent. We've all taken paths that nobody, and I can't think of any. I bet that nobody's parent here said, "Hey, why don't you go join the fucking circus?" So, you know, we're used to doing things differently. I see a lot of individuals and a lot of great people on this call. It's very exciting, guys I haven't seen in a while. But I think what's going to happen here is the people we work for are the same as we are. And there's going to be some rock star like a Motley Crue or a Foo Fighter or somebody that goes, look, my audience isn't like the Foos isn't going to say, look, my audience is, you know, 18 to 35. They're not in, or maybe even 50. They're not in the demographic. We're not going to have 71-year-old people out here catching coronavirus and dying 15 days later. So I think there's certain markets and certain segments. Justin Bieber just teed up last night with us to go out on June 15th. I'll bet the little fucker does it. Somebody's going to go out there and somebody's going to be a cowboy, because we're all cowboys and cowgirls and we all think we're still in the Wild West, even though we're big corporate guys or individual corporations or LLCs. And there won't be one of us that won't step up and go, come on, let's go. So I think what's going to happen is it's going to happen like that. It's going to happen like that. Somebody, I don't think like a Bob Barnhart or Jeff Ravitz on this call are going to get a call from one of their corporate clients, or, you know, I don't know, maybe Springsteen does it. I don't know. But I just think that it's going to be, rock and roll has fueled most of the innovation, going back to, you know, Tate Towers and them funding that, Genesis putting the money in to have Very Lights, U2 driving LED forward. The innovation, in my opinion, has come from our industry in the rock and roll touring or the musical touring events, and it kind of bleeds over down to the rest of them. You know, you never saw architectural lighting changing colors until it bled out of rock and roll over to that. So I think that's what's going to happen.
So yeah, John, if I make a point, John, I think you're absolutely correct. Someone's going to meet the first one out of the gate, and they're going to do it, I think, more for financial reasons than anything else. The first ones out of the gate it's going to be a huge cash grab. People are going to be dying to get out of their homes and socialize again and go out and see something. So I'm not wondering this is an opportunity for B-level artists or C-level artists to start doing smaller events at smaller clubs throughout the country before you start putting 20,000 people, 40,000 people in a venue.
It's gonna ramp up. It's gonna ramp up. It's gonna ramp up. It's not gonna go, but somebody's gonna go, fuck this. It's time to do this, and I'm gonna be first. And you know what? Their insurance agent's gonna tell them they can't do it, and they're gonna have it. They're gonna add something to the ticket.
Liability shit in the fine print already.
Yeah, there already is. You know, but you know what? As we discussed in a different conversation, when has anything ever stopped anybody from suing anything for anybody? So you know. It's just, you know, I could sue all of you guys right now if I got a really wild hair up my ass, and it's just crazy. But somebody's going to do it.
Be crazy lawsuits over.
Yeah, somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to do it, and somebody's going to get sued. And that's just the way it goes.
And I've been talking to a lot of lighting designers last week and the previous week, and they're getting phone calls from bands right now, dying to go out there and do benefits. As soon as this thing is over, they're really dying to go do benefit concerts. You know, I've had about 5 or 6 lighting designers telling me that.
Well, I think another thing that I've been worried about is, you know, the first ones, especially in Florida, bars have been closed now for about a week. And the bar/venues that host the B and C acts, when do they get to open again? Because they don't have any type of food income, so they can't be doing any type of pickups or to-goes. How long do they have until we start seeing the clubs that filter everything up start to close, and that starts to make it so you only have, you know, the big acts going out? How much time do those guys have?
I go back to that 30 days. I think Jack is not far off with that. Really don't.
Yeah. One other thing I'd add to that, guys, I do a lot of work with restaurants and hospitality in the franchise space. A lot of big chains. Yesterday, the National Restaurant Association came out and said that they estimate that 10-12% of restaurants will not reopen, and most people in the industry said only 10 or 12%. That would be a miracle, because 5% of restaurants fail every year anyway, right?
Yeah, but those guys are going to reopen somewhere else under some other name. Yeah, they're not going to go home.
Yeah, they will. But you know, the typical thinking with most of the franchise brands is about of the restaurants that are closed right now, about 50% will not reopen their doors. They will eventually, John, to your point, 6 months down the road, they'll turn it into a Texas Roadhouse or something. But initially, about half of them will just be gone. So consider that as well when it comes to your business.
Well, it's a huge tragedy with the bars. I live in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, for crying out loud. The bars closed. These are essential businesses, and we're in the state I live in. We're dying.
Yeah, beer is a state bird.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that I've got probably 4 shows, television broadcast shows, that are hankering to get going 1st of June. I think that's going to be the bigger issue, is with all of these shows, when we're with the personnel and first and foremost is the gear. You know, like Marcelo said, day 91, if that's going to be June 1st for a lot of productions, how are we going to support that? Because it's going to be an onrush very, very quickly.
There's going to be double the number of productions trying to be done in the same period of time.
If more than double. I mean, we're looking at several. I mean, it's just going to get stacked on top of each other.
And exactly why we repeat, go back to that question I posed, is like, hold your freaking rates. Don't go for the cash grab. Hold the rates. You can finally have the opportunity to get your revenue back to where it needs to be, so you can buy more gear from us.
No, the open markets is going to do its thing, and it's going to be supply and demand. I mean, there's just only so much supply, but the demand is going to outweigh the supply.
That's why everybody's giving John their deposit checks.
It's like Wiseman said a little while ago. The promoters are dying to get going. I talk to my Live Nation guys all the time, and it's just a question of, as soon as somebody says, like John said, as soon as there's a rock star out there who goes, fuck this, let's go, and somebody at Live Nation or AEG says, yeah, we're ready, it's on at that point.
Yeah, and at that point, it's going to be an avalanche. So I got to jump off the call. I want to say thanks and hi to everybody because I have to go call all your clients and get deposits while y'all finish this up.
Oh, yeah, now the call goes to zero.
Hey, Jeff.
John.
Take care, you guys. Thank you. What a nice group of people. Wonderful. Bye-bye.
Yeah. So one question I have is, like, a lot of people have said June 1st. Who's got the earliest, soonest, nearest show that is still booked?
I have a healthcare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got healthcare booked in May.
May.
September, maybe.
September, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, September for us as well.
Yeah, we still got, we have some starting on the 1st still that are still in the studio that locked us out. So I don't know if that really counts, but.
1st of what?
1st of June.
Oh.
Since California just moved it another 30 days, so.
Chris, in May is the earliest, the soonest one that's still actually booked?
I've got Memorial Day weekend stuff still on the calendar.
So, I live 4 blocks from Summerfest. Everybody's been through Milwaukee for Summerfest at all. So they have canceled all the ethnic festivals leading all the way through July. Summerfest usually at the end of June has been pushed to September. We in Milwaukee are supposed to host a DNC actually in the middle of July, and there's been no word about any of that as far as if it's going to happen or not. And of course, we know there's a month lead in to build and prep and rehearse and all that. So there's been no conversation. I haven't talked to anybody else. I know that I should probably reach out to some people and ask what they know about it, but there's been no conversation. I haven't seen on the news, like, what is the DNC doing?
Yeah.
So I know up here in Canada, the Prime Minister was asked today how long it was expected these COVID measures would be in place. And he was saying end of June or beginning of July, at least here. So.
Well, here's a question. What do you guys think about ticket sales and ticket prices? Our biggest demographic are these people that are out of work, the ones we're most concerned about, that don't have the ability to generate any income. They're getting kicked out of their jobs, kicked out of their ability to have expendable income.
We can barely hear you, Patrick.
Lean into it.
But you have a friggin' sexy shirt on, I got to tell you.
I figured I'd fly the flag today for it. But what about ticket sales and ticket prices and a demographic of people that are out of work that don't have that expendable income anymore to buy these tickets for this influx of events that we think are going to be available? Anybody concerned about that?
I think they're going to have to, everybody's going to have to, I mean, as far as promoters and artists, I keep saying that I think that Live Nation, AEG, CAA, they're all going to have to give back a little bit, for lack of a better word. Ticketmaster may charge less fees, and the venues may have to take less rent, but everybody's going to have to feel the thump, to get people back in, because you're right, Patrick, they don't have the money right now to go rebuild and their financial portfolio, let alone go to a concert. So I think it's, even if John's right, the kids are going to want to go back, absolutely, but can they afford it? That's the question, is what are those ticket prices going to be?
One thing I've always seen is that, like, in Mexico used to be the one that always blew me away, was they didn't have money for infrastructure. They didn't have money barely for food. They didn't have money hardly for education. But, you put a Madonna concert in town and 200,000 people show up. And I think people
The
always
ticket prices were also like
entertainment.
$5.
Sorry?
The ticket prices were also not what the ticket prices are now. Like back then, you could get your stuff together and spend $3 or $4 and go see Led Zeppelin. Now, if you want to see an artist of that caliber, it's going to cost you $253. So, are we the next
Well, I
ones to
think the
feel that
bigger
trickle down thump of the economy? Are we going to then get pressed?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, a little bit, but maybe not. I mean, maybe we're all going to be the ones that get to be the anchor for everybody. But I think that everybody's going to feel a little squeezed financially. I mean, I know that one of our corporate clients for the fall is already talking about cutting the production down just because they haven't, you know, they've got to get their revenue up for the shareholders to be happy, and they're not interested in spending a ton of money on bigger productions. I mean, they want to cut it down by half. That's already been talked about.
Maybe he's going to, start a new standard. You know, the fact that there's discounts here and there, to bring people back. Maybe he's going to set a new standard. I don't know. You know, maybe, the consumer is going to be used to pay less money now to go see concerts. And
I don't know if anybody saw this. Hello, everyone. By the way, I'm Benoit. And it hit me hard this week when I saw this article on Billboard. It's called How Coronavirus Will Reshape the Concert Industry. Came out on March 26th. I recommend you all check it out. John mentioned it at the beginning of the call, where at this point, we're dealing with two massive promoters, and we're dealing with their subsidiaries of how they formed the Live Nation and AEG Empire. And it looks like all these agencies that used to represent bands first and foremost are aligning themselves more now with the promoters to reshape the industry to the point where they're talking about no advances for the bands, pay after you get paid after you play. The article is interesting to the point where I'm wondering, why was this written with like this new game plan that's almost like prepared and ready to go? But there's also a couple of other issues that I'm scratching my head around, and it's the delay of this pandemic that's taking longer in certain places, and then eventually will hit in other places, and the peaks will be at different various time. And then when you have a tour that's booked, let's say, Live Nation says to a band, okay, you're in the club and here's a 53-day tour. Maybe a few dates here are not ours, but most are ours. And then all of a sudden, now you've got these pandemic issues that are spreading around the country later. All of a sudden, now you don't have those 53 shows anymore. You might have 40, you might have 35, you might have 30. Then all of a sudden, all the budgets are out of whack. The advance doesn't make sense anymore, and that's why certain bands are not getting their advance at this point. And then all of a sudden, the tour late in the summer could be in jeopardy. So it's an interesting issue. And then also, here's the third thing that bugs me is that, of course, until the vaccine is proven that nobody's going to get side effects, which is why everybody says it takes 12 to 18 months to prove that a vaccine will work. Well, you could have flare-ups, you could have multiple outbreaks that are going to continue and come back, especially in the fall and the winter again. So the whole thing is going to just kickstart, stop, which is a bummer.
Yeah, this is phase one of 3 phases.
Yep. Well, also, we've talked about is, so you still have the virus around. Now you're going to put, 8 to 11 people, hopefully not 12 people on a bus. You're making a petri dish for this to be, to destroy a whole tour. I mean, if you've got crew that now is starting to get it and they're traveling around, and some of them, some of the bigger artists will have their privates and commercial, but for the B and C's and D's, you're going to be on a bus, and all it's going to take is one person to start infecting the whole tour, and then the whole thing is got a ripple effect, and it's almost like this 360 cyclone that you just can't get out of.
Patrick, I have a very good friend of mine in a very tiny little town in Canada, a ski town in Canada where I have a house. And he was the first person I knew who had been diagnosed with COVID-19 or coronavirus or whatever it's called. And he went on a ski trip to France with his 4 buddies from the same area, from Banff, Canada. And they came back, and as soon as they got back, they realized all 5 of them had coronavirus. And the thing was, though, they were on a ski trip. They were partying. They were with a bunch of French girls. They were passing around, smoking the same joint between the 5 of them. And, this is the things that happens on a tour bus and that happens, in our crowd. And I agree with you. It's not an easy thing to kind of stop, I guess.
Well, I was on a call this morning for a corporate gig, and their bigger concern was the PR of having a huge production and having all of the elements
100%.
where they were less concerned about the budget of what it was going to cost to produce the show. They were more concerned that from corporate governance, after they've laid off how many people,
True.
that they don't want to appear to be so flashy, that they want to go back to way scaled back,
But
not
Joshua,
because of a budget concern, but mainly because of a PR concern. That if they do a major corporate event,
opposite of that happening though, where like a Foo Fighters is going to come out and say, we want to be the first ones, not because of money, because let's face it, Dave Grohl doesn't need any more money, but he wants to come out and be the first ones to say, hey, we're okay. You know, the world is okay. This is okay to do a concert.
Rock and roll.
But but that's going to be a big difference between the genres. Rock and roll is always above the top, way over the top, and showboat. Whereas corporate television production, a lot of the churches, all of the other genres, the subgenres of our industry. Even though John had said that rock and roll leads the way, I think the different genres that a lot of us work across are going to be completely different business models. Day 91.
Joshua has some really good points, and I've listened to Patrick earlier as well, and I've spent a lot of my time doing my career doing television with Verilight and corporate events and running a production company. So there's a lot of stuff that's been said around here, and one of the things that's really interesting, Patrick talked about the incubation and putting a petri dish of all the guys on the road. Those guys on the road work the hardest of anybody, and they're the most susceptible of getting sick, because their immune system is constantly being tasked over and over again. So that's the scary part, but that needs to be addressed. And how do you maintain a healthy road tour? And I think there's a business model there for people to that it can come up and maintain, and how to maintain that.
I mean, sticking 6 guys in a bus isn't a good idea.
Don't share straws.
And Joshua talks about corporate work, and I spent a lot of time doing that as well. And I've talked to some people that do these large corporate events, producers, lighting designers, the talent bookers, actually the marketing managers who run corporate business companies. And what we used to have over the years is that you do Target's national conference, and it's 8,000 people in an arena, and you're there for a week, or Mary Kay or Walmart, whatever it is. And they do this one gigantic national business meeting every year, and they do one small one at the other half of the year. I think what's going to happen now from talking to people is you're going to see more regional, smaller size corporate meetings happening, because they need to get those people together, but they're not going to be willing to put all these people in planes and spend the money and go place and make a big giant event, because it's much more. It's definitely on the radar. It's above the line. You see that stuff. But if you're doing something locally or regionally, it's kind of under the radar. People aren't really paying attention to it. People meaning the news or Wall Street or any other business that's gonna cause attention. So you're gonna start doing those events. That money at the corporate level, because it's a marketing budget money, needs to be spent, or they lose it the next year. You're gonna start seeing these little corporate events happening, or these little smaller events happening at the corporate level. And they're going to realize that, we still missed the big meeting. So now you've doubled some of the work, because I think in 2 and 3 years from now, you're going to see more meetings than you had before. And if they start paring back to the larger scale meetings again, they're going to be bigger than they ever were before, because they're going to have to make a justification of why they're only doing 1 meeting a year instead of 2.
Yeah.
Aaron, I would add on to what you're saying there. I think you're spot on with that. All of the CEOs in the restaurant and franchise systems that I'm working with, they've all realized over the past 2 weeks that these Zoom meetings like this are really good, and they're really cheap to do. So a lot of them are actually joking about, hey, we're never going to have a corporate meeting again. We're just going to get everybody online together like that. And I think that's probably accurate for the rest of this year, maybe even into next year. But I do agree that at some point, Aaron, there's going to be a huge backlash from, depending upon the culture of some of those companies, to say, you know what, we want to get everybody back together in person again.
Well, that's
but
because
I don't think that's going to happen for a year.
Jack, absolutely agree. And it's because those Zoom meetings, these are management meetings, they're middle management, they're upper management meetings. Those big corporate events are they're not about decision making.
Not for the restaurant managers.
They're gigantic pep rallies to get people excited about working as the foot soldiers, at the assistant managers at Target That's what those meetings are for. Not about the guys that are making, that have the stock options that can, go to their McMansions in the suburbs and retire at 35.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, some of the corporations are going to be very careful. I think others, I mean, I've got one that is in esports, and they keep pushing it back. They won't officially cancel the event. They keep pushing it back, and they're trying to be optimistic, and they want to do a big blowout one just to show that, they're still there. And they've talked about not reducing any of their production, but they just don't know when they can, safely do it. And I know that they're dying to go back, and some of the other film companies that we do projects with, they've stopped doing anything that's going to be large scale, and they've got projects that they want to do in October, and they're still nervous about it. But they're so I think the corporations are, and depending on especially on the entertainment and gaming side, they're dying to go back, because that's how they're going to promote their fall games for Christmas and their big blockbuster and their new series and all that. So it's crushing them.
I think the big thing we're going to be up against is optics. It's going to come down to optics for our clients. Does it make sense to their shareholders? Does it make sense to, is the news media going to, completely, crucify them if they go ahead? I think that we're on the whim of just the optics of what they're trying to do.
I think that's why we, the media actually in this scenario, and I hate to sound this way, but, I'm glad that we're being responsible. First off, let me preface that. We're being responsible to maintain flatten the curve, all that business. But I really think the reason this ramped up so fast and why everybody shut down so quickly is because of the optics. Nobody wants to be in the crosshairs of CNN, Coca-Cola, a venue, Live Nation, an artist. We all just shut it all down, because no one wants to be the one that's the reason why it's growing.
That's true. I agree.
But the problem is you can't, it has such a long incubation period. There's going to be no way you could tie it to an event. So, the
media doesn't care. The media will tie anything to anything it wants. It doesn't really matter if they can do it.
Hey guys,
Sorry.
I wanted to point out a new development in the last 24 hours, and that is that they're discovering that 25% of people who have this show no symptoms at all. They're asymptomatic, but they can pass it on. That's going to be a bailiwick to deal with.
Yeah, I've actually
This
heard
is going to be the problem of going into these venues, is that even if you take temperatures or sanitize, you've got the carriers that are day one of having it, and they're going to show no symptoms. They're going to go in, and that's the problem. And even if you do a take the money and run tour, and it's, a couple of trusses, small PA, and one truck and a bus, you still got that congregation. Look, I want to get back to work more than anybody. I want the insurance companies to be happy. I want the promoters to be happy, and I want the artists and all of our clients to be happy. But I just, I don't see how this thing is going to end quickly. And I hope to God I'm wrong, but I think that there's going to be a dip, and like LA, we're about to see, I think our new peak is supposed to be now in May. It was supposed to be in April. It might be wrong on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to keep seeing these peaks and valleys. And does that mean that we keep shutting the industry down, or do we wait it out?
How does this compare to N1H1? There's documentation and stuff that's been out there from, in 2009 when we had the swine flu. How does that compare? This doesn't seem to be any different than that. It's just we're managing it different, or is it? It's interesting.
It's majorly different. You're talking about you lost about 18,000 people to H1N1. They're projecting possible losses up to 240,000 people. So it's not.
The big difference that I've seen is incubation period. This sits dormant for so long and infects so many more people than something like SARS or H1N1 that it just balloons out of scale so fast. That's why everybody's freaking out. And it's for good measure, because if you're one person and you go to, like my favorite spot, a bar, and you go play some Golden Tee with 4 friends, within a week, that can be 250 people, and no one's even sick yet.
Yeah, I mean, guys, if we could, I want to stay away from the health stuff because I don't know anybody. I don't know anything about it. I don't know if any of you know anything about it. So let's leave that to the experts if we could. Just because.
Has anyone been sick though? I mean, has anyone? You know, I had a huge bronchitis issue for a week before Christmas through all the way New Year's, and I never thought of it. Has anyone else been sick?
One of my really, really good friends in Canada he used to play, if any of you are Canadian, he used to play in a band called Click, which was one of the hottest club acts in all of Canada in the 80s and 90s. They were a Rush tribute, and they were actually in most cases better than Rush themselves as a live act. They were so good. And anyways, he's an incredible keyboard player and singer, and he plays on cruise ships. And so he was on Royal Caribbean until about 2.5 weeks ago. And they gave him an option to either stay on the ship and ride it out for a couple of months without any passengers or go home. So he said, okay, I'll go home. So he, in flying back home, caught the virus in one of the airports that he was in. A couple days later, just noticed something was weird. So went and got tested. Sure enough, he had the virus. He said that it was less than a medium cold. Like he said, he didn't even really know he was sick. And so 8 or 9 days later, completely cleared, walking around in public, can't get the virus, can't give the virus. And, now he's a very liberal guy, by the way. And now he's saying, I can't believe we're reacting the way that we are. And of course, because he's one of these guys who had it lighter than other people. And bottom line is I really don't even want to go down this path because I don't think we're experts. I don't want to talk about this. I think there's so many better things to talk about, like David Milley. Did anyone see David Milley on this call? And for a minute there, he had his video on and he actually looked pretty damn good. Where's David Milley? Come on, David, put your video on. Talk.
Yeah. And Marcel, I think you're correct. We're not experts. I think we talk about it because it's cathartic. I think we feel we need to communicate about just so we're not getting stir crazy in our head and having other people. Hey, David.
David's back. Now you got to turn your mic on. No, don't turn the camera up. We know you're on a yacht or a freaking RV. Oh God. I'm unmuting you. Here you go. Oh, I can't even unmute you.
How's that?
Perfect.
This new technology is kind of confusing to me.
They probably can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, it's a problem. I'm glad I'm not in the business anymore. I don't know what I do. Well, it looks like, the way life is not the way life is going to be in the future. So,
who unmuted this guy?
I was just sitting here quietly making masks for.
I was just so happy to see you. I was so happy to see you, Dave.
All right. Well, I'm glad I'm here too.
Thank you.
Hey, Marcel, I've got to jump, but I want to share some information I stumbled upon. I'm in LA, and I heard Spectrum News, which is a new, and they were reporting on a poll, and it was for an entertainment-based poll. So I just want to quote some numbers from that this morning. 43% of people, now keep in mind, we're in the mix right now where everybody's supposedly scared to shit. 43% of people said they would feel uncomfortable going to an event after this, right? You may think that's 43% of my business, but I'm keying in on that even in the worst of this crisis right now, that 57% of the people are saying they'd be comfortable going to events when we come out of this. The other stat was 55% will go to fewer events. So my point in bringing this up is I'm confident. That was really good news for me to hear at 7 in the morning, because I have confidence in the fact that we need to be entertained, right? People will not just accept gaming or Netflix for the rest of their lives. When is the big answer? But I just want to share those notes and sign off, and hopefully
our business is going to bounce in a big way. And thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Bob Barnhart is saying goodbye to everyone. Bye, Bob. Thank you for showing up. We appreciate it.
Bye, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Bye,
See ya.
Bob.
Yeah.
Bye, Bob.
See you on the next one, everybody.
You guys are exciting to listen to. Very exciting.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
I'm good. I'm going to go find a tree and a rope. I'll be back.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to mention quickly is, see ya, Aaron. Thank you very much for sharing so much information with us. If everyone on this call hasn't seen Patrick Dearson's Facebook, please do, because he's posting this apocalyptic Las Vegas series of videos where he's either riding a bicycle or a motorcycle, depending on the day. And I mean, yes, it's sad, but on the flip side of that, we're never going to see sites like this again, ever. I mean, not in our lives anyways. I don't think so.
I really hope not.
It's unbelievable, some of the stuff that you're sharing, and I appreciate it so much, Patrick. I mean, I wish, or I love that other people are doing similar things, and I wish more people would do it, because it really is incredible to see that stuff. And I don't know how much longer you're going to be able to do it.
I would actually be.
Apparently today, the governor came down and said that we're supposed to be very soon starting a full-on "do not leave your house" portion. So I may not be able to do that.
Have you got a drone?
Yeah, right. I'm still this close to the airport. I don't think they'll allow me to fly one. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that we'll get to the point where it's going to get you'll be arrested for being on the street in Las Vegas pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I can just interject real quick before we end. Thank you, Marcel, really, for putting this together. I think it's really great for all of us to have an opportunity to talk to each other, whether it's informational or cathartic, just, a nice, friendly conversation. What I'd like to see next time is that we all actually have a martini or a cocktail with us, since it is happy hour. So those that have, thank you very much. Thank you for toasting. I appreciate everybody's time. I'm sure as Marcel does. But I'm looking forward to the next one.
Thank you very much, Aaron. And I don't know if anyone saw, but I had my 15-year-old racing driver's son refilling my glass of wine here. So
I was going to say, you have him very well trained.
I don't know if
in there
or what that is, but he was refilling my
Marcel's got his own wine steward now.
It's pretty good.
I just want to say something real quick. I have a lot of friends in China, obviously, and I actually had a friend who was stuck in Wuhan right through the middle of this. And they've been actually quite positive now. Like, they said it was really awful for like 3-4 weeks as you go through like this like peak of it, and then actually said that now people are like super upbeat. People are going back to the movie theaters. They like really they feel like this whole society sort of restarting, and they had a really positive message about this actually. So I said it was really awful, and they say I get text messages all day from the people I work with. Worrying about us over here in Europe and the US, but they feel that once we're over this like 4 or 5 week hump, that things will improve actually rather quickly.
I have
and
a
that
question.
people are anxious to sort of get the world back together that they knew before. So
that's amazing to hear, and that's what I'm hearing from virtually every Chinese factory and all of the people I know who deal with China. And John Lariviere, I think you know the same thing. You've probably heard all the same things. Aaron, you've probably heard all of the same things.
Well, I have a question. So in China, if the people that you've talked to in China, have they said that life is different when they go to the theaters or when they're going to any sort of a more public space, or have they not really brought that up?
It's mandatory masks for everybody there now. Like, you cannot leave your house, you cannot go to work. There's huge sanitation stations to go into the factories.
And they have these heat guns too that they point at your head.
Yep, you can't go
Yeah,
anywhere.
but that's after it's almost too late, correct? I mean, not to get into the virus thing again. Sorry, Marcel, but I mean, I'm just wondering.
It's not that I don't want to talk about the massive elephant in the room, but it's just I don't think any of us is health experts. So what are we going to solve? Nothing.
Well,
I'd like to propose a toast to all of us who are in this for the long fight and doing the best we can, and we'll be here at the end of the line.
Aloha, buddy. I mean, this industry, remember, guys, it wasn't that long ago that we went through 9/11, and then we went through 2008, whatever you call that dog shit of a crisis that we went through.
I think we all have the whip marks on our back from both of those.
But how
some of us remember 1998 as well.
Absolutely. I mean, but how good was the industry right after that? This is going to be even better. I mean, I know that. So all I'm trying to do is borrow enough of this free government money to make sure that I can last until the window opens up again and it's sunny, and whether that's 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, I have no idea. But that's what we all have to do.
I remember you and I, Marcel, talked about, how 2020 was going to be this banner year and everybody was ramping up. And I think it was probably a couple of weeks after our interview, the industry got completely spanked. Yeah, I think it was your fault. But I mean, we all thought that 2020 was going to be the epic touring year of our entire lifetime because everybody was going to go out.
We were geared up.
And everybody had money.
Yep. I had a lot of projects too going on.
It's going to be an interesting second half of the year. I guarantee you that for all of us.
I love the Zoom meetings, but I look forward to not doing them as frequent with you guys because we're all working.
Going back to Greg's point, though, where Greg was giving those numbers, when you talked about, all right, 57% of people on a general poll are willing to go back. The next thing we talked about earlier was the fact that we were worried about the social distancing at these events. Well, perhaps having only 50% of these people willing to go to these things ends up being a bit of a blessing in disguise. We can slowly ramp back into these live events without having a mad rush, a mad worry about massive flare-up, a bit more of an easier event management standpoint.
Yeah.
There's a lot of positivity to that as well. Some of the negatives actually do play into the overall positive.
Yeah.
And Patrick's absolutely right. People are, with adding to it, people are starved for human connection, whether they want to, interact with them directly or they just want to be voyeurs and they want to participate and watch. There's only so much you can do in your home by yourself watching television or be on Facebook. And I really hope that when we get on the back end of this, that society spends more time interacting with each other in person than we do online. But with that said, this would be amazing to continue what Marcel's done on a weekly basis, even when things are stupid, crazy busy. If we just host a happy hour for those that don't happen to be working on a Wednesday at 5 p.m.
I agree.
Good idea.
Although
we're
usually
very busy
from backstage.
David.
Or from front of house. You'll be fine.
David Milley.
Yes.
You were just
so
going to.
This is what I'm doing. I'm making masks.
You are not making them. You're distributing them.
My wife is making masks. I'm helping her distribute. We're mailing these to first responders, medical people, police departments. So there you go.
So, and my company GearSource has been working with Upstaging, who has done just unbelievable things. I think all of you have seen what Upstaging's been doing. And so they don't know how to sell anything online. So what we did is we've created listings online for their face shields and they've got room dividers now. They're making, it's unbelievable how they've transitioned themselves from a concert touring lighting company into a manufacturer. But yeah, we're selling thousands of these face shield things now. And I wish we could do more, because people are coming to us saying, we have a I don't know what the politically correct name is for an old folks home. What do you call those?
Retirement community.
An old folks home.
One of those.
Old folks home.
David, you ought to know.
Old folks home is pretty good. What's the name in front of your gate that you walk into?
What's that?
What's the name of the gate that you walk into?
Nice.
Hey, no one else listen except Giovanni. Fuck you, Giovanni. Anyways,
hey, Giovanni.
It's called a retirement community, I believe.
One of those. Yeah, one of those. So, some of those people are coming to us and saying, can you sell us 3? But the problem is, Upstaging obviously has a logistics system where they got to sell them in boxes. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to bring a bunch of boxes here and then have single pieces that we can walk over into a, what did you call it, John?
Retirement community.
One of those. And, hand them to them. But so anyways, Giovanni, what are you drinking?
Vodka.
Vodka. Nice.
I just have a very large martini glass.
So my
One
beautiful,
quick thing.
my beautiful girl, June, is making me our aviations all night long. So I just been sitting here, and when it's empty, she comes and refills it.
Aren't you lucky? Give your best. Give your best to your bartender.
That's
Thank
a
you.
refill earlier. I saw that.
Matt, what's the deal with this bar?
Hey guys. Well, it's on the rocks. It's our favorite New York bar. So y'all need to come out and hang out.
So that's not in your house.
This is not my house. I wish it was. I get nothing done. I just wanted to let you know my tax guy for a small independent design firm, just myself, and smaller companies, sent me a link to the SBA disaster loan assistance. And it took me about 20 minutes to apply. And I am number 3,300,000 and something thousand, but it's free money. It doesn't really hurt. I'll drop the link in the chat window. So if any of you guys want to apply, any of the smaller LDs or programmers or whoever's
Chase
on
Bank
here,
is not
it's
currently supporting that.
Oh, well, I don't have Chase, so.
I do.
So I want to share something with you right now. I'm going to share my screen real quickly for anyone who can see it. And so I received this today. And of course, I've blocked the password because I know what kind of degenerates are on this call. But we applied for this about a week ago, and our local bank, which is SunTrust, helped us through the process and everything else. And this was a Florida product, but I think it's also being offered all over the country, and it's called a bridge loan. And so what this is, it's a tiny amount. It's only $50,000. But it is free for the first year, 0 interest, and then I think they give you up to 4 years to pay it back. And so we got this today. We got approved and got the money, and everything's good. So
Wow.
I just wanted to share that with you. I mean, it's amazing how quick, I think it was Ben today who gave me a number, and I'm going to share this with you as well. Today, Ben Saltzman told me that, one second, because I want to share this. It's very interesting. Oh, it's a statistic. The SBA has facilitated $26 billion in loans in all of 2019, and they're being asked to do $350 billion in the next 12 weeks. So, as we all know, the government isn't always really great at running businesses. And the SBA is actually doing a pretty remarkable job right now with not only creating these programs and putting them together, but accepting applications, managing those applications, et cetera. So, I mean, hug an SBA person today if you see one, because
yeah. The one thing on that link that I sent is that it says it's a loan, but if you actually read it, you do not have to pay it back. It's a up to $10,000 loan you don't have to pay it back. It's part of the government stimulus. So I sent it in
if you
chat
spend it on payroll or rent or utilities, you're 100% covered.
Well, that's the payroll protection program.
It's different. This is totally different.
No, this is different.
Today, but definitely check it out. And my tax guy said if it doesn't hurt to apply. So it's free money that's hanging out there. So just wanted to share with everyone.
Very cool. Thank you. Jeff Ravitz just said bye. So that must mean the party's over. I appreciate all of you guys so much.
Bye, Jeff.
I appreciate all of you. I thank you for coming. And if you guys want me to keep doing this, I'll keep doing it. I'll do it again next week.
Please do.
Let's do it.
Keep inviting more people. I mean,
what else are we going to do on Wednesday?
Where else are we going to go?
If it goes above 100 people, I promise you I'll pay the extra $50 a month and get the Zoom, whatever the hell they call it, enterprise version or big group version or something.
We got you covered. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it.
I like talking to all of you guys, and I'm kind of drunk at this point because my son keeps pouring wine in my glass. So I don't know what else to tell you.
Thanks again for putting this together.
Thank you very much, Marcel.
Thank all
Cheers,
of you.
everybody. Well done.
Cheers to you.
Nice meeting you guys.
Cheers.
Take care.
Be well.
Be
Be safe, everyone.
Take it easy, guys.
All right.
Stay safe, guys.
Have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.